All action cameras are the same, right? Little black rectangle that you stick to the front of your helmet. It's sort of there and in the way, but this is the only option there is. Or is it? Say hello to the Insta360 Go 3. As many of you know, I recently switched over 100% to Insta360 cameras, got tired of certain other brands and their lack of reliability and all that. So when they reached out to me and asked if I would be interested in getting an early copy of the new Insta360 Go 3 to review, I said yes immediately. So thank you to Insta360 for sponsoring this video, and I'm pretty excited to tell you guys about this ridiculously innovative, tiny little miracle. There's really nothing else like it on the market that I'm aware of. So let's talk about the features of this camera. I'm gonna get you acquainted with it really quickly. So it's got two parts, as you can see. It's got the action pod and the camera itself. Now you can run the camera just like this, like a standard action camera, and the action pod actually charges the camera when it's in the pod. So there's two separate batteries here. But you can remove this and use it separately. It's got a magnetic mount on the back, which means you can put it in a million different places, get unbelievably creative angles, and really the limit with this is your imagination and the strength of the magnet. It also has a flip-up screen here that you can see, so that if you're using it as a facing you camera, I like to use it as a B camera on my handlebars, you can see what it's seeing. And when you remove the camera from the action pod actually works as the remote control for the smaller camera, but you can also use the buttons on the camera to start and stop it independently. So there's a lot of versatility in this neat little package with the Go 3. The camera itself weighs 1.2 ounces. It is the smallest action camera in existence. You can get ultra-wide POV shots with multiple settings. The magnetic design, so the back of this is a magnet. There's a magnet inside the action pod. Incredibly versatile, and they have a ton of super clever creative accessories that you can use with this. There's a magnet pendant, which I use to get shots. I actually put it inside Travis's backpack and magneted the camera to the outside of his backpack and followed him up the trail. I got some great footage of that. There's a clip that you can use like on a hat brim, or I actually put it on Starbucks' collar and got some footage of her playing fetch with me. That was really cool. There's a pivot stand with a sticky base. It's not gonna last on the bike, like it's not for outriding, but you can stick this sticky base to just about any flat material, wash it off and use it again. So you can get a ton of crazy POV shots because the camera weighs nothing. It also has an optional quick release action cam style mount. I put that on my handlebars. I mounted it to various places on the bike here to get a bunch of POV shots, and it's magnetic quick release, so it's quick on and off. It's really cool, slick setup. This thing also comes with a removable lens guard. It's this little black plastic thing on the lens, which I tested thoroughly because I maybe sort of over-tested the magnet and had the camera go flying off on a gravel road at 30 miles an hour. And the camera itself is fine. The lens guard just has a little tiny ding. That's a cool feature because it's replaceable. So if I'd scratched the cover itself over the front of the camera, I could have just gotten a new cover. The camera itself is fine. So this is the Go 3. On the Go 2, one of the biggest issues was battery life. They've improved the battery life on the Go 3, but also it recharges from the pod, which can give you up to 170 minutes of recording time, they say. It has the flip-up touchscreen that I mentioned, remote control and live preview. It has Insta360's flow state stabilization with horizon lock. I can tell you that works really well because I've mounted it in a ton of different angles on the bike and it always seems to know which way is up. Two built-in mics with wind reduction. It is waterproof up to 16 feet, so if you get caught in a rainstorm riding with this thing, or you want to film underwater, you totally can. It has voice control, their time shift feature, high dynamic range, AI-powered photo mode, slow motion, time-lapse, and timed capture. There are 3 models. The 32 gigabyte model is $379.99, the 64 gig is $399.99, and the 128 gig is $429.99. So that's the features, that's the overview, that's the rundown of the camera. Let's talk about what I liked about it. So the pros of this camera, there are many. The magnetic mount goes anywhere. Like I said, I put it on the back of Travis's backpack, I put it on Starbucks' collar, I put it on the outside of my tent and took a video of me packing up the inside of the tent, so I actually hung it from the fabric of the tent and had it looking down on me while I was inside the tent. No tripod, no garbage required. Literally, you can put it anywhere there is a thin layer of fabric or something metal that you can magnetize it to, or you can use the motorcycle mount like I have on this bike to clamp on. I can't overstate how many different angles you can get. The limit is your imagination with this setup, and that's what I really like about it. Super small, incredibly easy to use. I really like that there's a separate on-off button and a record button on the little camera. You do not have to control it from the remote control action pod. It was really cool when I had had it on the back of Travis's backpack because I could control the camera from my handlebars even though he was 20 feet in front of me. And I could even see the video, like I could see how it was framed. That's a really neat feature. It's super unique. The shooting modes, there's a ton of them, which is really cool. It's really easy to use. There are a ton of features packed into this tiny package. I'm shocked how many different features you get with this, how many different things you can do with it. And it's got the AI editing in the app where it can like edit clips and set them to music for you, all that stuff. So all the versatility that Insta360 comes with. It also has that Insta360 reliability. No issues with this camera. I've used it in a ton of different conditions over the last few weeks that I've been testing it. Two of the biggest complaints about the Go 2 were the overheating issues because it had heat dissipation issues and the battery life. They fixed both of those issues. Battery life is much improved on this one. Heat dissipation is much improved. There was a limit on how long you could record clips for before because the camera would overheat. Not so with this one. You can run it until the battery runs out or your card fills up. So that's what I like about it. Things I don't like about it. Disadvantages of this particular camera. One, it doesn't shoot 4K. If you only shoot 1440p, 1080p, or you're only using it as a B camera, maybe you don't care as much, but it does not shoot 4K, and there's a good reason for that, I think. One, it would cause a lot more heat, but also, two, it ties into my second complaint about this camera, and that is there is no way to hot swap memory. There's no memory card slot, so the size you buy is what you have for recording. Now, I've got the 64 gig here. It lasted me a whole 2-day trip as a B cam and a handheld camera, recording in 1080p. If you're only using it as a B camera and you have the 128 gigabyte model, I'd be shocked if you ever filled that up. But in terms of a primary camera or a multi-day trip, it's a concern that there's no way to add memory cards to get additional space or swap out a memory card. You have to take the footage off the camera, which means you have to take a laptop or at least a phone or one of those little things that pulls video off your camera to do that. So that's a big concern for me for the way that I use it personally. The other big con in terms of what I do is there's no external mic support. So you're limited to the mics on the camera. Now I don't really care because I'm not planning on using this as a primary helmet camera with an external mic plugged into it. This is a B camera for me because of its versatility. It's going to be the camera that I use to get the riding by shots, the different angle shots, the around camp shots. And for that, I think it's fantastic. It's spectacular. But if you want to use one camera and you want it to be your helmet camera, this isn't it because you can't plug in an external mic. In my experience, the internal mics have been fine, but if you wanted like a directional mic or a lapel mic or something, you can't use it with this camera. The magnet is very strong. I've been impressed with the use I've gotten out of it, but it's not strong enough by itself for use on a moving motorcycle, and I know because I had it fly off of the clip mount while I was riding up a gravel road like I said, so I wish the magnet was a little stronger for that type of thing, but it's not really what it's designed for like less vigorous riding. Like I rode on the highway all the way up there, had no problems. It was only when I got off on some washboarded stuff that it actually came loose. So if you're not riding aggressively, you can get a lot of use out of this, put it in a lot of places, get some really cool shots, but the magnet alone is not enough for the super aggressive riding. Fortunately, that action cam mount with the quick release works really well, and it actually works with the little camera as well as the action pod itself, so that's a really cool feature that I liked. The mount on the pendant, so there actually is a pendant that's a magnetic backer that you put inside clothes or whatever. That's a lot stronger than what I had in the clip mount, so I feel a lot better about that, especially when you put it in a place with some human suspension like Trav's backpack. I know I keep using the same example, but because it's not absorbing every bump of the road because you use your legs when you're riding, it didn't move at all, and I think it was on there for half an hour that day. Trav even crashed. He went down, rolled over, and it didn't come off, so I'm really impressed with the magnet backing on the pendant anyway, but the clip mount and a few others could be a little stronger. So my final conclusion on this review of the brand new Insta360 Go 3 is this. It's not a helmet camera. So if you're looking for a primary helmet camera for vlogging, you're gonna wanna get a 1RS. That's what I use, or something like that. But in terms of a B camera, in terms of a easy to use point and shoot camera for maybe someone who doesn't make videos for a living, say you wanna shoot your kid's softball game, or you're going, I don't know, whitewater rafting or tubing, or you're doing a track day, or you're doing a motocross track. It's so easy to mount, particularly the little camera, basically anywhere. And you don't even notice it's there. It doesn't weigh anything. It's waterproof, works by itself. Such a cool little setup for capturing those sort of action sports and activities, particularly if you're maybe a novice user who doesn't want to mess with settings and stuff. You just want a camera that works. This is really cool, and it has a ton of versatility because it comes apart, but you can also use it a lot like a traditional action camera because of the action pod and the way that the camera mounts into it. It's not without its drawbacks. I think the biggest con for me is that lack of memory card. I understand that it probably wouldn't fit in the camera proper, but it'd be neat if maybe there was a way to put one in the pod and offload video. I don't know, maybe a feature for the Go 4. It's not a deal breaker, and honestly, if you get the 128 gigabyte model, it's gonna take a while to fill up. I used to shoot whole days with 128 gigabyte cards, particularly at 1080p. I never filled the thing up. So in fact, last year, I think I took 3 of those cards on the Wobbler, and I only filmed 2 over a 5-day trip. So it's not a deal breaker. It is worth the money to get the more expensive model because there's no way to upgrade it, so buy once, cry once. That is my least favorite feature. However, with the versatile mounting option, small form factor, and ease of use, you can get just about any shot you can imagine. The limit is your imagination with this camera, and I really like that about it. It's a ton of features in a small package and a great way to up your game by adding some incredibly creative B-roll or for use as a primary handheld camera around camp, or like I said, just to go out and capture your action sports. I put it on my dog's collar and it's waterproof, so you could theoretically do that. Take her to the park where there's water and she could be jumping into the water and stuff. Just like things like that, and the more I use it, the more I come up with creative ideas for it. And like I said, I think it is probably the most innovative action camera design out there. There's nothing like it. So if you're in the market for a cool B camera or a cool do-it-all camera, I would encourage you to check out the Insta360 Go 3. I'll put a link in the description. Full disclosure, that is an affiliate link, so if you do end up buying one, I get a little commission. And thanks again to Insta360 for sponsoring this video and for sending me out the camera to try. Really impressed with it, and honestly, I think you will be too. I have loved all of my Insta360 products to this point, and I hope that you guys are as successful with them as I have been. If you have questions about the camera, leave them in the comments. If you've used a camera like this or this camera, or you picked one up, please let us know in the comments. Let us know how your experience has been. Please consider subscribing to the channel because I'm the dork on the road and I want to be your internet riding buddy, and I'm better than your regular riding buddies because I come with a mute button. Thank you for watching, and please do not forget to be excellent to each other. Thank you.
Excellent!